If you've ever visited a state park, national park, or any nature preserve, you've likely come across signs along the trails advising visitors not to feed or interact with the wildlife. In most cases, it's best to allow wild animals to go about their business undisturbed by human interference. However, there are instances where vulnerable wild animals may benefit from a helping hand. One day, a responsible resident of New Hampshire spotted a family of black bears struggling to safely cross the road. Concerned for their well-being, the resident pulled over and promptly called the police for assistance. When State Trooper Thomas Owens arrived at the scene, he realized he had a more significant challenge to address than he had initially anticipated. In the rural and backcountry roads of Carroll, New Hampshire, it's not uncommon to encounter wildlife crossing the streets amid the SUVs and pickup trucks. While this is usually a routine occurrence, sometimes animals find themselves in a predicament. The town of Carroll Police Department has advised its residents, especially while driving, to be cautious of moose, deer, and other woodland creatures crossing the roads. While these encounters are common, the incident in question was anything but ordinary. As a Carroll resident was driving along a tranquil road near the Bretton Woods Ski Resort, a family of black bears, led by a protective mother bear, halted the driver in their tracks. The driver noticed that the mother bear appeared hesitant for some reason, prompting them to call the police in the hope of understanding this puzzling situation. State Trooper Thomas Owens arrived on the scene with the intention of clearing the road and ensuring everyone's safety. He observed that one of the 4 bear cubs, the smallest of the litter, seemed unsure, frightened, and immobilized in the middle of the road. Given the typical dynamics of bear families, Thomas grew concerned about the future of this cub. In situations like this, where a cub lags behind and appears weaker, mothers often have to make the difficult choice to move on to protect the rest of their cubs. According to the North American Bear Center, bear litters with more than 3 cubs are typically weaker and face lower survival odds. As Thomas watched the mother bear and her 4 cubs linger in the road while he directed traffic around them, he couldn't help but root for the fragile little cub, hoping it would catch up. However, it soon became apparent that additional assistance was required. The sight of a family of wild black bears just feet away can be a majestic experience, tempting onlookers to capture the moment with photographs. However, the presence of a crowd might have made the mother bear feel threatened, especially since black bears typically prefer flight over confrontation, unlike their more aggressive grizzly counterparts. The large crowd might have deterred her from protecting her weakest cub, forcing her to lead with her 3 stronger offspring. Recognizing that the runt had been left behind, Trooper Thomas decided to call for backup. He contacted Fish and Wildlife Services to have a professional intervene and transport the weak cub to safety. During the investigation that followed, an interesting connection emerged. Thankfully, the fragile cub was promptly taken to a rehabilitation center in Lyme. However, the police department noticed something oddly familiar about the situation. A nearly identical incident had occurred in Carroll just 24 hours earlier. Another officer had rescued a different bear cub in Carroll the day before. Officers from the town of Carroll Police Department began to wonder if these 2 cubs might be from the same litter. While a litter of 4 cubs is already relatively rare, the idea of a litter of 5 was almost unbelievable. After some investigation, it was confirmed that these 2 isolated cubs did indeed belong to the same litter. This leaves her with 3 other very healthy cubs that she can now focus on and take care of, the department stated, referring to the mama bear to clarify. This mother bear had done her best, successfully keeping all 5 cubs warm and safe in the den since January. She performed admirably. However, even the most formidable mama black bears sometimes need a helping hand. Both cubs were transported to rehabilitation centers with the hope that, with the assistance of veterinarians and modern medicine, they would eventually grow strong enough to return to the wild and become independent. Please use this as a reminder to keep bears wild and not feed them human food or approach them from your vehicle, even if they are adorable, urged the state police. They also emphasized that the black bears were handled by professionals and that the public should never approach wild animals. It's heartening to know that these vulnerable cubs were not left to fend for themselves, as bleak as that may sound, and that they are now receiving excellent care. These 2 young animals required human intervention, which is not a common occurrence but not unheard of either. While rescuing baby animals may not sound particularly frightening, consider the challenge of rescuing an adult bear. Wild animals rarely encroach on our personal space and typically avoid human contact. However, when they do venture into human territory, they can find themselves in perilous situations. Bears, for instance, are not typically viewed as helpless creatures. However, their curiosity can occasionally lead them into problematic situations, as was the case with a black bear in Alligator Point on St. James Island in Florida. This 375-pound black bear had been foraging in the neighborhood when it entered a home. Wildlife conservation officers were called to sedate and safely relocate him to the wild. However, moments after he was shot with a tranquilizer dart, things took an unexpected turn. Using a tranquilizer dart may sound harsh, even when it's intended as a non-lethal means to ensure the bear's and the residents' safety. Nevertheless, the wildlife officers had limited options. Although the bear had no aggressive intentions, it was only a matter of time before it encountered a human. Unfortunately, the plan quickly went awry. Instead of sedating the bear, the dart immediately sent it into a panic. Wildlife officers prepared for the worst, but they had no idea how dire the situation would become. Terrified by the officers chasing it, the bear made a beeline for the nearby water, swimming out as far as possible. Unfortunately, that's when the sedative began to take effect. The drowsy bear was unable to keep itself afloat, and it started to drown. Adam Warwick, a biologist with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, knew he had to act swiftly. Without hesitation, the fearless and determined Adam leaped into the water and swam toward the massive bear. Most people couldn't fathom such a brave act, but in the heat of the moment, it seemed like the only option. What if the bear attacked him? Adam didn't have time to second-guess himself. He grabbed the enormous bear with both hands and wrapped his arms around its neck. Then he began kicking towards shallower waters, where other wildlife officers were waiting. The bear wasn't entirely unconscious and was understandably distressed. It frantically tried to climb onto Adam to stay afloat, but its legs were losing strength. Despite the stressful and incredibly risky nature of the mission, Adam remained as composed as possible as he guided the bear toward shallower waters. He grasped the bear by the scruff of its neck and carefully guided it toward the rescue boat. Fortunately, Adam managed to pull the powerful predator roughly 25 yards toward dry land. While moving the bear in the water may have seemed relatively easier, the real challenge awaited them on the shore. The unlikely pair eventually reached the rest of the rescue team, safe and sound. Although the bear was sedated, there was always the potential for him to lunge at Adam or swipe at him with his formidable claws. Remarkably, Adam sustained only one scratch throughout the entire ordeal. Apart from that, he emerged from this perilous mission relatively unscathed. It was a testament to his courage and quick thinking. Adam's colleagues rallied around him and the exhausted bear, helping them regain their composure. Such situations require the collective efforts of many individuals and a great deal of bravery. The team utilized a large tractor at the water's edge to transport the groggy bear back to his home in Osceola National Forest. Carrying the 375-pound animal would have been an impossible task without assistance. Thankfully, the bear did not suffer any injuries following his adventurous swim. It's safe to assume that he might steer clear of water for a while after this experience. Most importantly, this massive bear was safe and back in a habitat that suited him best. Hopefully, he learned to avoid wandering into residential neighborhoods. However, for some bears, a zoo provides the safest environment. Zoos remain a contentious issue, with ethical concerns regarding the confinement of wild animals in limited spaces for the entertainment of visitors. While some zoos contribute to the preservation of endangered species, others may not provide suitable conditions for their inhabitants. However, some zoos attempt to find a middle ground to mediate these controversies. The Olympic Game Farm in Sequim, WA, is one such example. Visitors to the Olympic Game Farm can get close to various animals in natural habitats. As guests drive through the preserve, non-predatory animals approach, allowing visitors to feed, photograph, and even pet them. Precautions like fences separate potentially dangerous animals from the road, although some still interact with visitors. One YouTuber experienced this firsthand during a visit to the preserve, particularly in an area housing a group of Kodiak bears. one of the largest bear species. However, something incredible caught their attention during the visit. They spotted the biggest bear they'd ever seen, sitting just on the other side of the enclosure's fence. Despite the fence's presence, the bear's massive size made them curious rather than fearful, prompting them to approach for a closer look. The woman in the vehicle began waving at the enormous creature, a friendly gesture she probably didn't expect the bear to respond to. Yet the bear did react, surprising both the woman and her companion. For a moment, the bear watched intently as the woman waved her hand from the safety of their vehicle. Whether out of curiosity or calculation, the bear's next move caught them completely off guard. With a swift flick of its massive paw, the bear reciprocated the wave from the car's passengers, leaving them with beaming smiles and an unforgettable memory. The question remained, did the bear truly understand what it was doing? Bears are renowned for their social behavior, often forming bonds with humans akin to their interactions with fellow bears. It's not unreasonable to think that the bear's wave might have been a gesture of friendliness or acceptance. On the other hand, many animals at the Olympic Game Farm receive regular handouts of wheat bread from visitors. By mimicking the passenger's wave, the bear might have seen it as a way to earn a reward in the form of food. Regardless of the bear's motive, people were captivated by the heartwarming encounter, with the video of the interaction garnering nearly 20 million views. Surprisingly, other bears at the preserve started emulating this friendly wave. Now, visitors who wave at any of the bears at the Olympic Game Farm can expect a friendly wave in return, though a piece of bread is often part of the deal. With full bellies and plenty of attention, these bears appear incredibly content. Remarkably, bears are known to form interspecies relationships, sometimes even bonding with animals much smaller than themselves. An intriguing example of this occurred at the Berlin Zoo, involving an unexpected friendship between a small cat and an Asiatic bear named Mäuschen. Mäuschen was a beloved resident at the Berlin Zoo, known for her size and strength. However, one morning, zoo employees were taken aback when they discovered a small cat named Mushki wandering inside Mäuschen's enclosure. The cat had been spotted by an employee during a routine check for Mäuschen's food. Startled by the sight of the cat, perched on a tree branch, they couldn't have anticipated what would happen next. As Mäuschen noticed the little cat within her enclosure, her behavior took an unexpected turn. She approached the tiny feline, and in response, Mushki leaped down to the ground. To everyone's astonishment, Mäuschen and Mushki quickly formed a strong bond, becoming inseparable friends. The situation took a peculiar twist when the Berlin Zoo decided to expand Mäuschen's enclosure in 2007, necessitating their temporary separation. Mäuschen and Mushki reacted surprisingly to their separation, displaying signs of distress. Mushki would sit outside Mäuschen's cage, crying throughout the night. Eventually, they were reunited after the enclosure renovations were completed, drawing considerable attention from visitors. The origin of Mushki remained a mystery, but her profound connection with Mäuschen seemed almost destined. Their unique friendship demonstrated that bonds can form in unexpected places, transcending differences. The Berlin Zoo wasn't the only place where such an unlikely pairing occurred. In a similar vein, a massive bear befriended a small black cat at the Folsom City Zoo Sanctuary in California. The cat, named Little Bear by the zoo workers, regularly entered the bear enclosure, initially sparking concerns for her safety. Surprisingly, the two species appeared to enjoy each other's company, with Little Bear even sharing the bear's food. Jill Faust, the senior lead zookeeper, had never witnessed such an unusual friendship. Despite the size difference, she encouraged her staff to nurture the relationship while ensuring the cat's safety. Little Bear developed a particular bond with Sequoia, a 550-pound black bear at the sanctuary. Although Sequoia had never displayed aggression, the staff remained vigilant to protect the cat. Little Bear's presence attracted more visitors to the sanctuary, intrigued by the heartwarming and uncommon friendship she shared with the bears. She spent most of her days lounging in the shade, observing the activities of her larger friends as if she were one of them. Little Bear relished the attention from visitors and seemed entirely at ease in the zoo environment, despite her diminutive size in comparison to the other creatures. Much like Mushki and Mäuschen, this feline ursine duo was irresistibly charming. These companions have overcome numerous challenges, and their bond continues to grow stronger over time. It's truly remarkable to witness the deep connection between two vastly different creatures, and this phenomenon extends beyond just bears. In November 2016, a baby southern white rhino named Nandi faced a dire situation. Her mother had fallen victim to poachers, leaving her alone and unable to fend for herself at just 2 months old. Struggling to survive without her mother's guidance, Nandi resorted to eating sand in desperation. However, her bleak prospects took a turn when rescuers discovered her severely dehydrated state just in time. They rushed her to the Rhino Orphanage, a non-profit supported by the Wild Heart Wildlife Foundation in South Africa. Under the diligent care of her guardian, Jamie Trainer, Nandi received the nourishment she desperately needed. Jamie even shared her nights with the rhino to ensure her well-being. But could it be enough to nurse her back to health, given the sand in her belly? Day by day, with Jamie and the orphanage's dedicated efforts, Nandi's condition improved. She transitioned from ingesting sand to consuming solid food and drinking water. Nandi even made some new friends along the way. Jamie was Nandi's first friend, taking her on daily walks, where the two had ample bonding time. Their relationship was also marked by playful moments, such as Nandi playfully chasing Jamie around, albeit causing some playful bruises. While Jamie earned the nickname the Rhino Whisperer, she also rescued another species, Muey the cat, when he was just a few weeks old. Muey followed Jamie everywhere, so it was only a matter of time before he crossed paths with Nandi. The question was, would they get along? Surprisingly, Nandi and Muey bonded over their shared love for walks, and Muey even needed to be carried back because he got tired. They also discovered a common fondness for naps, despite their different sleep patterns. With her new friends by her side, Nandi made significant progress in her recovery. There was hope that with her improved demeanor, psychology, and health, she might eventually be ready to return to the wild. However, a setback occurred. In February 2017, poachers attacked the Rhino Orphanage, endangering Nandi's life. It became evident that she wouldn't be safe there any longer. Yet she wasn't quite ready for release into the wild. Authorities faced a challenging decision regarding her future. Ultimately, the decision was made to transfer Nandi, along with another rhino named Storm, to a more secure facility called Zululand Rhino Orphanage. In March 2017, Jamie and Muey bid farewell to their beloved friend Nandi. Though saying goodbye was heart-wrenching, it was a necessary step. Thanks to Jamie's dedicated care and Muey's companionship, the Zululand Rhino Orphanage deemed Nandi fit for release into the wild in May 2018. On the day of her release, Nandi, accompanied by her new friend Storm, hesitated at the gate, apprehensive about stepping out into the wild. But eventually, they ventured beyond the confines of the orphanage, experiencing true freedom for the first time in their lives, all thanks to the friendships they had formed along the way. Rhinos are not typically associated with playfulness, but Nandi defied that stereotype with her exuberant spirit, as seen in her joyous interactions with Jamie. This was a rhino that couldn't be kept down for long.